Okay, we're looking at the number 23 on worksheet 29 I was asked to look at. These are just going to be whatever I'm asked in second hour today so that my 6th hour can look at them. We were doing 3 times the secant of 1/3 theta. So we found the period is 6 pi, half of 6 pi is 3 pi, and half of 3 pi be 1.5 pi. So I'm looking here, and now I need to know where the asymptotes are, and they are where the x values are 0 for the cosine. So we got an asymptote here, and I've got one here. Wherever cosine is 0, the secant's going to be undefined. That's why we have asymptotes there. And then now I can just do the reciprocal and get the graph that I want. Okay. And then if you wanted to continue it, you could. You'd need to have a mark at, which is, this was 1.5 pi is our scale, plus another 1.5 pi would be 3 pi. This is 4.5 pi. 4.5 pi plus 1.5 pi would be 6 pi. And then 6 pi plus 1.5 would be 7.5 pi. That's where that next asymptote would be. And then you could extend the graph. Then if you have to label, the only ones I'd expect a label line would be like right here, 0, 3. I was about to do that. And then this one would be 3 pi negative 3. And here would be 6 pi 3. And that's good enough. Okay. I think you'd probably do this one now, just the reciprocal of the sign. Oh, don't know what that says. Oh, cosecant. Wait a minute. I wrote something strange there yesterday. Okay, was there something else? Well, I'm going to turn this off until you ask me something else. I was asked to look at number 12 on 28B. You were wanting to know, what was your question again now? How? I don't know what you mean by in front or behind. Yes. Oh, now I get what you mean. Yes. Okay. So I said that sometimes K is in the front and sometimes it's in the back. Yep. So that is a K. Yep. That's the center line. You meant in the equation. I was thinking of graphing, and that's why I misunderstood you. You want me to graph this one? No? Julian? You would like me to graph this one? Okay. All right, so there's your center lines at 2. You've got a B value of 2, so the period would be 2 pi over 2, which is pi. Okay, so the period's pi, and then this negative sign means you need to reflect over the x-axis, so it's going to do the reverse, upside down, from the original cosine graph. All right, so if the period is pi, then we're going to need to have pi over 4 here. The scale, x scale would be pi over 4. 1 pi over 4, 2 pi over 4, and the next one would be 3 pi over 4, if I get my pen to work. So we're going to get one wave within this range from 0 to pi, because that's the period. So if the cosine and the amplitude is 1, so actually your amplitude is just 1, it's always the absolute value of A. All right, so you're just going to be 1 above, 1 below, so it's going to be between here and here. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and graph it now. It would normally start up at the high maximum point, but since it's reflected, it starts here. And then it goes to the center line, then up to the max, back to the center line, and then finally ends at the min. Okay, so that would be one cycle. So the first point is 0, 1. The second point, pi over 4. Oh, this is hard to fit in here. Pi over 4, 2. Third one's at pi over 2, 3. Fourth one's at 3 pi over 4, 2. And the last one's at pi 1. Okay, and then you could continue the graph. Yep, you should extend it if it's given. You don't have to write points on those, though. On here, I could go back if I wanted, but not a big deal. But yeah, on the quiz, I only asked you to do one cycle, though. That's to look at number 13 on 27B. If you have the point -9, 40, be like terminating in quadrant 2. -9 would be this piece, and the vertical piece would be the 40. Then you need to find the hypotenuse. It says point P is on the terminal side of angle theta, which is in standard position, which means this was theta. However, this is your reference angle. Draw theta with with theta positive and calculate the sine, cosine, and tangent ratios. So just sine, cosine, and tangent. I was just checking what I needed to find. So I need the R value. So remember, it's x squared plus y squared equals r squared. So -9 squared plus 40 squared, or just 2 Pythagorean theorem, is basically what it is. So let's see, 81 plus 1600. I got to take the square root of 1681. It comes out to 41. Okay, so the sine of theta would be y over r, 40 over 41. Cosine theta would be -9 over 41. And the tangent of theta would be y over x, 40 over -9, or -49. I don't like the way that looks. Okay, so I've been asked to do number 30. Is that what you said? 18. Where I got 30 from. All right, so 18, it says that you got the sine of theta is -9 over 41 in quadrant 4. Okay, so this would be your reference angle. Sine is y over r. So the y part is the -9. The r is 41. You need to find x. So x squared plus -9 squared equals 41 squared. I think we already know from what we just did on the other page that we're going to get, this is 16, oh no, it would be 40, wouldn't it? Okay, so 41 squared minus 9 squared, I think we get 1600. I'll just double check. I didn't put the negative sign in because it's just a waste of time since it's going to be squared. All right, so yep, 1600. And that gives me x is 40. X would be positive because we're in quadrant 4. And I forgot, it just says you want this. Oh, did it just want the sign? No, it gives the sign. What did it ask to find? How many things? Find the remaining basic trigonometric functions of angle theta. Okay, so cosine theta would be 40 over 41. Tangent of theta would be negative 9 over 40. Then you can do the secant of theta, 41 over 40. Cosecant theta, which would be the reciprocal of the sine, would be negative 41 over 9. And the cotangent of theta would be negative 49th. Good grief. I can't get much louder, could it? Up there. On number 3 in this, on this page or a different page? On 28. Okay. Number. Okay, and refresh me. What number was that you're looking? 28. On worksheet 28. That's why I was confused. This past it? Is that 29? Okay, number 3 on 28, right here. Oh, that's the amplitude. Yep, that's A. So the amplitude is only a half. So it's going to be really a squished graph. Oh my gosh, how are you supposed to even put that on there, right? Just looks like this. Oh, the period is 2 pi. I made it too narrow. I just did a period of pi. I need to extend that. Oh, now I went up to 1. Stupid teacher. Only 1/2. Hard for me to draw with this thing. Okay, so your key point 0, 0, pi over 2, 1/2, pi 0, 3 pi over 2, negative 1/2, and 2 pi 0. And then you could extend it. Okay, but an amplitude of 4, a center line, y equals 1, the period, because the b value, so I've got an a of 4, I've got a b value of 1/2, and I have a k value of 1. Do you understand that that's not with the theta? Okay, so it's outside of it. All right, since the b value is 1/2, the period is going to be 2 pi divided by 1/2, which is 2 pi times 2, 4 pi. Okay. So this would be where one cycle ends. I'm just marking it off so you can see. The center line is at 1. The amplitude is 4, so I'm going to have to go up to 5, 4 above the center line, and down to negative 1, 2. I have to go 4 down, 1, 2, 3, 4, so I'll be at negative 3 for my min. Okay, it's the sine, so it starts at its center line. And the period is 4 pi, so I'm going to have a mark at pi at the max. At 2 pi, back to the center line. At 3 pi, it'll be at the minimum, and then back to the center line at 4 pi. Okay, so these would be the points you need labeled 0, 1. pi 5, 2 pi 1, 3 pi negative 3, and 4 pi 1. And then you could extend your graph. And I'll just show the extension in a different color. Oops. Good enough. So again, about the question about on the quiz, all I'm going to ask for is this much, one cycle. I won't have it extended because I want to see you label just those 5 points. And if it were shifted, then it would be those 5 points when they're shifted. Okay, this is number 15 on 29, I believe. Yep, 29A. I'm going to start by making, well, I have an x-axis if that's my x-axis. I'm going to look at what the shift and all that stuff is going on here. The negative sign tells me I have to reflect it. I have an amplitude of 4. The period is going to be 2 pi because there's no b value there, but there is a phase shift, and that would be the opposite of this, so it's going to be negative pi over 4 to the left. Okay, but since I know I'm going to go left, I'm going to make my y-axis not be right at the edge. Put it in a little ways. I got a 2 pi period, so I'm going to start marking off the right side. Half of 2 pi, pi, then pi over 2. My x scale is pi over 2. So 1 pi over 2, 2 pi over 2, 3 pi over 2. This is where 0 is. But I have to take this thing left pi over 4, so I'm going to have to know where the pi over 4s are. Well, I'll just talk about the graph first, what it looks like without the phase shift. So if it's got an amplitude of 4, you have to go up to 4 and down to negative 4, and it's reflected. Okay, so if it weren't phase shift, it would start down here at negative 0, negative 4, then it goes to pi over 2, then to the max, the min, and the midline, and then the min at the end. This is what it would look like without a phase shift. Okay, now I need to shift it. So I have to go left pi over 4, so I'm going to mark off pi over 4 increments. 1 pi over 4, 2 pi over 4, 3 pi over 4, 4 pi over 4, 5 pi over 4, 6 pi over 4, 7 pi over 4. And I also need to go left about that much, not that much, negative pi over 4. Okay, so now I'm going to shift these points. So this one is going to here. I don't like that color. It's not showing up very good. All right. This one moves left to here. This one moves left there. This one moves left to here. And this one moves left to here. Sketch the graph. Did I do that right? Why does that look weird to me? I did it. Okay. So the locations are negative pi over 4, negative 4. I did it correctly, right? Yeah. Pi over 4, 0. 3 pi over 4, 4. 5 pi over 4, 0. And the last one, 7 pi over 4, negative 4.